Hi. How's everyone doing? Good. Good evening. My name's Casey Hamilton, and I'm your host for the evening. Like many of you, I'm a UBC alum and a graduate of the Vancouver campus, and I'm now working on my master's degree here in the Okanagan. I'm also a member of the Alumni UBC Okanagan Leadership Council, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's Your Next Step Okanagan event, now in its third year, presented by our media and broadcast sponsors CBC and Alumni UBC MasterCard. Thank you to CBC and MasterCard for your tremendous support over the years. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us tonight. In addition to our alumni and guests, we have UBC students here from the Okanagan campus. And a show of hands, so who are students with the campus right now? I'd say almost half at least. That's great. Welcome to everybody. So I'm going to ask you to keep your cell phones on tonight, but with your buzzers on mute, because we're going to be tweeting during the event. So our Twitter handle at alumni UBC_OK, and our hashtag is UBC Next Step. So that's right here on the slides, up on the screen here. So we invite you to all to participate this evening. Following the moderated panel discussion, there will be a question and answer period. You can tweet your questions to us or pose your questions directly to the panelists, both during the Q&A as well as at the reception following the discussion. By now, you no doubt know we have been engaged in a Canadian first at UBC. 3 years ago, we publicly launched an ambitious fundraising and alumni engagement campaign called Start an Evolution. Our twin goals for the Okanagan campus include to raise $100 million for student support, innovative research, and exceptional student spaces, and to involve 1,350 of our alumni in the life of the university by 2015. We are in the final stretch of our campaign with over $85 million raised and 1,000 Okanagan alumni who were involved with UBC in the last year. Thank you to you, our alumni, donors, and friends. We look forward to hitting our campaign targets. And we're excited to have alumni and local experts here this evening to help you map your career path. On behalf of UBC, I welcome and thank them for their time and talent. Now it's my pleasure to welcome tonight's moderator, Bud Mortison. Bud grew up here and is an Okanagan College alumnus. He worked as a newspaper editor through the 1990s before moving from media to corporate communications at the turn of the century. That sounds so long ago. He joined UBC on day one of the Okanagan campus in 2005 and is our Director of University Relations, overseeing media relations, communication services, and community engagement. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Bud to introduce our panel.
Very good. Thank you, Casey. It's my pleasure to be the moderator of tonight's panel discussion. We're here tonight to talk about career paths. Some degrees lead graduates towards a specific career, but many will find that the path is less direct and that you need to embark on career exploration. But where do you begin? Attending networking events and participating in online platforms such as LinkedIn are part of how to begin. But what you really need to do is conduct a thoughtful self-assessment to create a plan of attack. Whether you're looking for your first job or you're in the midst of a career change, who should you connect with? What skills should you be working on? How do you find the job that fits you? Our four panelists are here tonight to help answer these questions and help get your career on the fast track. So let me introduce the fabulous panel that we have with us tonight. And I'll ask that you come to the stage now as a group, and I'll introduce you. We have Robert Fine is the Director of the Central Okanagan Economic Development Commission. He's lived in the Okanagan since 1998 and sits on several boards in this area and abroad. He was named the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce's Business Leader Award winner in 2009, but his interests don't stop there. He also sings the Great American Songbook and has performed all over the world. So welcome, Robert. Thank you. Sarah Rambold received her Bachelor of Management degree from UBC's Okanagan campus in 2009, and since then has gained a diverse professional experience, including work in the public, private, and not-for-profit sectors. And while not in the office as a senior marketing coordinator with KPMG, she volunteers extensively, and she enjoys giving back to her community. Nick Melamanise is the Labor Relations Advisor at Fortis BC and is responsible for the maintenance of the 5 collective agreements. Nick is also an avid volunteer with business and HR communities and sits on several boards and does guest speaking at both Okanagan College, which is one of his alma maters, and at UBC's Okanagan campus. And Michelle Lowton, at the far end, received her bachelor's degree and master's in social work from UBC. She's currently Director of Student Development and Advising at the university and is responsible for student services such as career and academic advising, on-campus employment, campus life, community service learning, and much more. Many in the audience may already know Michelle. Please join me in wishing them a warm welcome. So I just have a few things to cover before we continue about the format of Next Step and this event this evening. I'll be asking our panelists a number of questions before turning the floor over to you with your questions in a Q&A session following the panel discussion. Following the Q&A, you can continue the conversation because we'll be hosting a reception as well. We're recording this for a podcast that will be posted on our new digital library at www.alumni.ubc.ca. And lastly, as a reminder, as you saw the hashtag earlier, we are asking if you have questions that if you don't want to ask them out loud, you could tweet the questions to @alumniUBC_OK and use hashtag UBC Next Step. So let's start the conversation. I'm going to turn my microphone on here and make my way over. So there we go. Can you hear me? Yes. Very good. So I'm going to throw the first question open to the whole group. And it's a fairly general one, but it's one I think a lot of people would ask if they were sitting in my position, and that is, how do you filter through all of the choices that might be out there as a young person that is looking to start a career? It can be overwhelming, all the opportunities and choices. What's the best way to start? So I'll just throw that question to the team.
Come on, Nick, you know you want it.
You know, you always have an inkling of somewhat what you're looking for, at least the industry that you want to be in. So I know when I came out, I specifically looked for something in human resources. But when you're in a general, let's say, degree like management, and you know you want to be in management within some sort of business, what I would do is look for a company or an industry that you think that you would see yourself in down the road, and that you could try different areas of management within that company. Because working for a company, you can always move around. There's lots of programs within the medium-sized to large companies that allow you to kind of jump from area to area, whether it be in HR, marketing, accounting. Kind of opens all your doors for you. So I would say make sure you look at a company that may interest you if you're not too sure what type of position you want to be in.
I sort of want to build on that and say that one of the ways personally for me, and that I see a lot of students do this, is that they filter through what they don't want. And I think that's empowering to start narrowing the search, because I think generally, like you say, people know what they want to do. And I know that when I was searching, I was saying things like, I feel like I want to work with people, or I want to help people, or I know that I'm a bit analytical. So, you start to know yourself, you start to know the field, you start to know what's available, and then you start to know what totally isn't a fit. And I think you know that through getting involved in different things and from some of your university courses. But it starts to really make sense the further down the road you go. So that's how I think you filter.
Yeah, and I think that sort of adding to that is sort of getting to know your sense of what you like and don't like, what appeals to you, and actually beginning to drill down on the opportunities. So you may look at your skill set and look at a job title and go, that doesn't really apply to me totally, but it's very rare that you're actually going to graduate from school and find a job that fits exactly what you've gone to school for. It certainly doesn't seem to exist. So Take a look at those companies. We have a lot of small businesses in this region as well, where you may have to be more of a generalist because there are many tasks that need to be undertaken. And look how you can apply the skills that you have that may not be directly what you've gone to school for, but you are probably very capable at, given the opportunity. So broaden the horizons a little bit would be my kind of advice.
I guess I'll kind of echo everything. I think in terms of filtering, it's almost listening to your gut and going after things that are important to you, and maybe it doesn't necessarily work out, but everything that you do will kind of direct you to something else. And also maybe just getting in touch with people in different industries. Maybe it's a parent or a family friend or a teacher maybe refers you or something like that, and just talking to people about what their roles are in different organizations and what positions are there. I think what you were saying. Like I always thought I wanted to be an accountant or in finance, and now I'm working for an accounting firm in marketing. So there's a lot of positions in different organizations that you might not necessarily know are out there, especially in the Okanagan.
Very good. So Nick, tell us how you got your start and what your experience was when you were out there looking for that start in the career.
Well, I always knew that I was a good person. I wanted to do something that dealt with people. So moving from hospitality into human resources was kind of an easy transition for me. So when I came out of college with a degree in business, I knew I wanted to be in human resources. It being 2010, it was a very tough time to find positions, especially human resource positions in the Okanagan Valley. So I kind of kept my mind open, and I said, you know what, I'm going to look at a position as getting the experience now, and I can always get the specialty part of HR that I want to be in later on. I just want to get into the industry. So I was quite fortunate, actually, and I got a referral from a professor for a temporary position in human resources as an HR administrator. And so I had the interview, and the individual that was interviewing for it, the thing that she liked about me was that I was honest, and that I just said I needed someone to give me the opportunity to show myself, that I knew that I wanted to do HR, that I knew I was a people person. I just needed to start somewhere. And I took that role over a permanent full-time position for a marketing company. So for me, I made sure that I took the position that worked best for me long-term, not just the position that worked well for me short-term, and to get a full-time position right away. Does that kind of answer what you were looking for?
That's great. How about you, Sarah, in your position with KPMG? Did you go through that selection process early on?
Yeah, so I've been out of school for about 5 years now, and I came from the management program at UBC, so the inaugural graduating class. And I kind of always envied some of my friends who knew what they wanted to do right away, and I was the complete opposite. I kind of knew some things that I enjoyed, kind of echo like giving back and helping, and I started just through my connections working with in a position immediately after graduation, and I didn't there's things that I liked about it, but I didn't love it, and I knew that's probably not where I wanted to end up. But I took those skills, and through the connections that I made, another door opened, and that kind of happened a couple of times before I got to where I am. So I explored, I think kind of you mentioned in my bio, working public. I worked for UBC for a year, and just sort of trying things out. I worked for not-for-profit for a year. I thought that's where I kind of wanted to be. And then the position came up with KPMG, and it was interesting how my prior experience all kind of came together, because we're professional services firms serving all these industries. So I had that background working in all those different industries that kind of lined up. But at the time, it wasn't clear. It was kind of like in hindsight that it all came together. So.
Great segue into my next question, and that is generally, and this is for the group, generally, do you think it's better to have that clear, definite goal in mind, or to just leave yourself open to the opportunities as they present themselves? Is there a winning strategy on either side of that?
I think you should have a goal. I think the question is what that goal is, how specific that goal is. You have to obviously work towards something. I think flexibility is probably the term that I would use in terms of where I've found myself. I started as an urban planner. I went to school, got an urban economic geography degree, and then I went to planning school for a master's. And I worked in a planning department for about a day and a half, and it was like, I've made a huge mistake. This is so not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it was a matter of taking the skills that I had and saying, how do we apply this? And through a series of opportunities, and fortunate timing, I ended up working with the business community, and so brought the land use and the development side of my training and background in, and was able to add the marketing part to that. So the goal was that I wanted, once I realized I didn't want to be an urban planner, is what do I want to be? And it's like, okay, let's see what the opportunities look like, and this connection to the business community began, and that's how I have now been joyfully doing economic development for about 25 years now. So I think flexibility is have a goal in that a general area in which you want to endeavor your future and your career with, but be flexible in how you may apply it.
Michelle?
I agree. I think that you have to have a goal. I think people would be surprised at the level of ups and downs that you have relating a degree to a career. So I think that while you can have sort of this goal, like I did, I know I want to work with people and then narrow it down. I think that you also have to just pick the degree and the education that works for you, and then be just tracking towards those experiences. So I don't think that it's as linear as people think, and that for me was surprising, and it causes a lot of angst as well. If you think it's going to be this path and this is my target, I'm going to go to med school one day, like, please have alternate plans, because that might not happen. And so that's just something that I think is really critical, is to have a goal but still have a plan B or plan C, a plan D.
Great.
So, yeah.
Another perfect segue, totally unplanned, by the way. Non-linearity. So is it okay to take time out of university to try different fields?
I think it's okay to follow your heart. I mean, follow your gut. You just need to do, like, I dropped out of university the first time. I actually kind of failed out of university the first time because I wasn't connected, I didn't like it, I wasn't engaged in anything. And you know, sometimes if you graduate successfully and take time out, that's great. Or if you stop out instead of drop out, which is, you know, eventually I came back, obviously, and went back. But I think you just have to follow your gut. If you're not engaged and it's not important to you, then you just have to go. That's what I think.
Other
You know,
thoughts?
I would agree. For myself, I did 2 years of school. I got a diploma in hospitality management, and then I actually worked for 3 years. Because I wasn't sure. I knew that hospitality was what I liked, but it wasn't what I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. So I took the time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do while I was working. I look back now, and those 3 years, I truly believe, are a huge asset to me. And part of the reason that my current employer hired me was because I have the experience behind me. Even at a younger age, I have that work experience. I've dealt with people before in the past, and also I have the education now. So it was kind of a nice balance. But I wouldn't have had that if I kept going through school. So I think it depends on what you're looking for and what works best in your life at the time.
Next question's for Robert. So, classic conundrum. The employer wants to hire people with experience. To get experience, you need to kind of do the job. So what are the ways that you can sort of break into a field that you may not have experience in?
Well, I think we always, as an organization, look favorably on folks that volunteer, so that are committed and connected to the community. And there's often a link between those volunteer opportunities and the job at hand. So that's an important way. You know, a lot of employers are open to volunteer work terms for a couple of months or a couple of days a week, off and on, just to give you some experience. It's a chance for them to test drive you, in effect, to see what potential you might have for them. And it gives you an opportunity to see if indeed there's opportunities. We've done this as an Economic Development Commission. We've had folks that have come in and done little volunteer assignments for them, but we actually ended up hiring one for an intern fill position. And I think that's a really easy way to connect, is to, if you can get an employer to have confidence in allowing you, because it is a time commitment from the employer to even to come on board as a volunteer, but to get them committed to you, it's a chance for you to sort of build out a future work opportunity. The other thing is just about being relevant in the area that you want to work, and if you may not have work experience, but if you're aware of the trends and the opportunities that are taking place in that field, and you can relate those, there are ways to communicate that to your employer. And also in terms of my generation versus your generation is the whole social media area. We tend to struggle with it a bit. And that's a set of skills that, that I may not have experience in, and you may not have working experience in doing that, but you're certainly the time that you're spending online and using those outlets in your personal lives can become a valuable opportunity for an employer as well.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you know, along the lines of community, a lot of the volunteer positions that you may have, that those skills that you've learned or developed, that those will parallel with what they're looking for as well. So just, you know, communicating that, I think. And I think, you know, everyone has summer jobs, and if you can demonstrate, you know, who you are, that you're a hard worker, that you have the qualities that they want. You may not necessarily have the years and experience, but if you have that, you know, determination and that drive, and if you don't know the answers, you're going to find them, or you're going to figure them out. Like, they look for that too in the personality.
Networking. Robert mentioned social networking, but networking is important. It opens you up to the opportunities that might be available in the community to get that volunteer experience. But what if you're an introvert? What if you're just not really that kind of person? How can you break out of that? Are there any techniques that you could suggest for people that aren't all that outgoing, but that really do need to establish a network with people?
First of all, I would say that I'm not an introvert, but I definitely work with individuals that are, and have seen individuals that struggle with this. For myself, I was surprised, given that I was fairly new to the Okanagan, I actually did struggle a bit with going out and connecting and trying to network with people in the industry. And you know, my biggest kind of recommendation is take a friend. You know, go together so you have someone for support, someone you know that you can kind of talk to if you're nervous, go talk to someone else. Just get out there, because the more you go, the more people will notice you're there, and they'll come talk to you, which is so much easier, right, than going and standing up to someone that you don't know and that you want to talk to them about, you know, current positions or current roles. So just get out to them, you know, just work your way up. You don't have to talk to everyone the first time. Just attend, even if you stand in the back and be quiet. Just push yourself a little bit more each time to network more.
And it's not about numbers. It's not about Facebook followers, Twitter followers. It's really not about how many people. People think networking is I have to know so many. The more people I know, then I'm a good networker. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's the quality of those connections. And so, if you struggle, it's a matter of try and make that connection to one or two people. And as Nick has kind of implied, that can open up to their networks at the same time. How many of you really don't like going out and show of hands? Don't like going out and meeting and chatting. Thank you for your honesty. I got another hand in the front there. Unfortunately, it is a big part of our work world, and particularly now because of the amount of online engagement that people are involved in. That for employers, that's a really important ability to connect with people. So you really do have to push yourself, but just you don't have to do the swath. Find a couple people and get comfortable that way.
I'll add, I would say I'm an introverted extrovert. You know, in a large group of people that I don't know, don't often feel the most comfortable. So there's different ways to network too. For me, I would prefer going out for coffee and one-on-one, and that's where the quality of the interaction comes into play too, I think. So there's a lot of, you know, organizations locally that have started to come up. There's the Okanagan Young Professionals Group. And, you know, like, give them a call. Donnie and Garrow is awesome to say, hey, Donnie, I'm so-and-so. I want to get plugged in, connected, and just, you know, there's other ways to network, I think, that you can be more comfortable with. Or on campus, Phil Bond, if you want to get involved sort of with community. That's how I started getting involved with community stuff with the alumni office. So
I would just echo that. I'm a clinical introvert, we call it in my house, because I wouldn't even be here right now, actually, if it was up to me, if I hadn't said I'd come. You know, I would just much rather be at home most of the time. But I will say, for folks that are introverted, I'm in my late 30s now, but when I was in my 20s, it was awful. It was just like I needed to develop skills around that. So I would really encourage you. The quality is important to introverts. Like, you only really want to talk to a couple people and develop a good relationship. But learn about small talk and what I like to call the grip and grin, you know, those uncomfortable situations, because for introverts like me, it's just one of those things where you don't get a real kick out of meeting a whole bunch of people and in that situation. You really just want to have quality, and yeah, you do have to learn a few little skills around how to chat with folks. So I would really recommend learning that as you get older. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. I'll follow up. So LinkedIn, some of the other social networking, professional networks. Are there online resources and tools that you think are more valuable than others or that are important? How important is that online presence?
I think one of the things that when we panel, we interview a lot, and we get a lot of resumes, we always Google our candidates. And so you really need to be aware of what even your Facebook profile picture looks like, because even if we can't see it and you've got your privacy set, you can still see people's faces and you can still see a variety of things. So you do have to be cautious about just what comes up that you can't control. And I know that there's methods for you to clean up your footprint online, but I would just really caution people that you do get Googled if we are interested in you, and to pay attention to that. But LinkedIn, of course, is critical for seeing that, because that will come up higher and higher, and so that is something that you can control. But beyond that, I'm not quite sure if there's other HR advice around searching for that.
I can definitely comment on that. Employers these days are using social media more to look for potential employees. You may not even be looking. So LinkedIn is a great way to kind of have yourself out there. Then employers can find you, or if you see a role that you like, that you can connect with the HR representative in that group and let them know that you're interested, or apply through it, right? So it's a great tool to use, but if you're going to use it, make sure it's quality, make sure you keep it up to date, and make sure that there aren't spelling errors in it, because it's a reflection of what you are like, which means in human resources, that's what you're like in the workplace. So make sure that you keep an eye on it and make sure it's always up to date.
I think the thing that drives people crazy on LinkedIn is that it's incomplete, or it's basically what I would call like a 4-second investment. You just put your name in there and where you graduated from, and that's it. There's not a lot of content. That would drive me crazy when we check on someone who's applied for a position and having to distinguish it. So that is important. And the other one is remember that your conversations are fairly public. So I was mentioning earlier, we had someone applied for a job, shortlisted, did an interview, and within about an hour of the interview went online and said, "Ace, my interview today, I can't wait to start this job." He didn't get the job. That wasn't good for anybody. And so keep in mind that what's public, if you're going to post something on a Facebook page, even if I don't have access to it, someone actually emailed me and said, "Oh, did you hire so-and-so today?" And I'm like, "No." And so always be aware of that.
And I think with so much competition, and employers are looking at your social media profiles, they're looking at your LinkedIn, it's really an opportunity to create your personal brand a little bit. It's a platform, to add community service activities, volunteer activities, and so just to take that a little bit more seriously and develop that, I think it'll set you apart even in the slightest ways that may stand out in the end. So
I'm going to ask about mentoring. I've had mentors all the way from high school teachers, all the way through to today. People that I look up to and that have sort of taken me under their wing and taught me about, shared their knowledge with me. How important is mentoring, finding mentors, and what would you look for in a good mentor?
I can start off. The first mentor I really had coming out of post-secondary, I still connect with her on a weekly basis, touching base, seeing what she's up to. It's a great way to kind of keep in touch with someone who's in the industry or that you look up to. I see so much of myself in my mentor, and I actually would like to see myself more like this individual in the future. I see where she is in her career, and that's kind of where I want to be in 15, 20 years. So when you're looking for a mentor, kind of look for someone that you see yourself wanting to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years, that you can connect with and can really share their experiences with you and help you grow as an individual.
I would agree with that. Mentorship has to click like one of your best relationships, right? It's not a forced thing. It's not that you go and ask somebody, "Can you be my mentor?" It's something that is organic, I guess, and it develops out of a really close relationship. And I've only had really one mentor for a very long time, and same, I clicked with her. I felt like she had something to teach me, at a time when I really wanted to learn, and same thing, saw that this is the trajectory that I wanted to go down. And I think that you also need to ask and be explicit about those things, like I need guidance or I need this. I think I've often been surprised in the workplace that more people don't say what they need, and that they desire to, you know, I'm interested in how you got here, or you know, the questions don't really come up very often, similar to this panel, right, of asking questions and hearing people's story. It would be interesting to encourage that a lot more, and I guess I encourage folks to do that, is to ask questions of people, because I think people really do want to share, you know, and mentor, even if it's just briefly like this, right?
I mean, this region's incredibly blessed with talented people who have made this a decision to live here and typically globally work all over the world. And the one thing that I've found, which continues to impress me, is that it's a very giving community, and there's outlets. If you want to find a mentor, there's places you can go. Community Futures Development Corp has a mentor program. Accelerate Okanagan can connect you with people. So it's a matter of defining what do you want to get from that mentor relationship, and then making some connections in to find someone that's appropriate. And it's almost, in a way, it's just like you interview for a job, you should also interview for a mentor, in terms of both them with you and you right back to them, so that you're at least on, as you suggested, or on the same page, and you know exactly what your hopes and aspirations of having this relationship will be. And I think we've probably all been blessed on this panel to have a couple mentors that we can always go to for advice, input, and know that the response we're going to get is going to be honest, not what we want to hear, but what's probably the actual truth. So really important.
Yeah, I'll add, I agree with both. I think there's kind of the organic development of a mentor, but also there are steps that you can take to sort of seek out more. And for me, I remember in university, I always wanted a mentor, and to the point where I almost like asked someone, can you mentor me? But like, I think it comes, and it just, you'll cross paths with people and you'll connect, and you'll start to build that relationship and just continue that. And for me personally, it's happened since being within the firm that someone's, and I connected, and now he's starting to coach me and mentor me. And so it is, you know, where you want to be in the next 5 years or however long. So I think you can take steps to find a mentor, but it also comes to you sometimes.
So while mentors can help you find skills you might not have otherwise identified in yourself, personality tests are also sometimes used. And so how much do you think people should rely on personality tests to just determine their path, what they're going to explore? How valid do you think those are?
I'll start. I find them interesting. I think it's, for me, getting to know yourself. And when you start in the workplace, you'll start to see, you know, what your skills are from feedback from the people you work with, and also the things that you enjoy, what your skills are. And it's interesting, there's a couple of them. One I did recently, it's called the fascination test, and it's not how you see yourself, it's how others see you. So I think just having that awareness on how you work with people, what your personality type is, and how to work effectively with people within the organization, I think I find it very interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say, because of this trait, I'm going to get into this industry, but to be aware.
Yeah,
Michelle,
I agree.
yes.
You know, when I was in high school, I did a personality test like that, and I'm supposed to be a florist, it said. So that, it was wrong, really wrong. And then I was supposed to be a vice principal or a principal at a high school. So it's, you can get, those tests will tell you, especially when you're seeking things, answers, right? And it'll tell you what you're supposed to be. I think the valuable ones for me have been awareness tests around, like the Myers-Briggs, I actually have really found to be useful for myself, because, and for my work with other people, like you're talking about working on teams and with colleagues, there's some people that you just never, and you kind of don't know why, and how can I communicate better, and what do I need to do? So getting some learning around how you communicate, how they might receive that communication has been really, really valuable to me. So, and there's good ways to get those tests administered. So I would recommend that. I don't know about many other assessments. At the university, we do strong assessments, and we do the Holland quiz. Those ones can be really valuable to put you sort of in a large box, basically, of interests, like an interest inventory. So I would recommend those, but also pairing it with talking with somebody. Like, I don't know if this is correct, and what do you think? And then getting some homework on that. So I think that working with with an advisor or career educator can really help if you've done that and then you've still got questions.
So don't stop there. Tell us more about what is available at the university for people, both in this exploring career paths, but also in that getting prepared for that job interview and exploring the job market.
Well, we've done a few things. So we have our career advisor that does one-on-one appointments with students, and it's sort of a bottomless pit. Like if you need to see our career advisor repeatedly, she is there. And we also do, and so in those appointments, I should say, it's kind of everything from, I just need somebody to brainstorm with, I'm feeling a bit out of sorts, to I'm working on a resume and there's a particular job and I want to talk about behavioral interviews. I've heard about these things, but what type of questions? And you can attend, also we've got our senior student programming, so that's specifically for senior students, 3rd and 4th year, that are approaching the end of their university time and are feeling really nervous. So they're feeling like, I don't know what's out there, I don't know if I should go to grad school, I feel like all my friends know what they want to do. So we run repeated workshops of, is grad school for you? What are your options? Where can you go? As well as career workshops. So we get career professionals in to talk about their path, basically. So you can have one-on-one with that. Yeah, so there's a few things, and we're really open to hearing what students have to say as well. So if people have feedback or ideas for things that you feel is missing, we really want to hear about what the need might be as well.
Thank you. Robert, if Michelle had become a florist and she felt like it wasn't really fitting, I mean, is it okay to just sort of stop it when you sort of cut your losses? You know, this isn't for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Although I think you would have been a great florist. Just from the brief
I
time
have
we
no
spent
flowers
together.
Anywhere, ever.
I took one of those personalities. I was supposed to be an auctioneer, so it doesn't always work out the way you plan it. No, I think as I suggested in my career, it's like you realize just because you've gone down a path, and if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And you can try as hard as you want to mold yourself into that, but it's not going to bring you happiness or likely success in the long run. So it is quite all right to stop, do a reassessment, and figure out where you're better suited or best suited. And often at the time, it seems like a horrible, tragic waste of time, and that there isn't going to be something better coming, but there is. It's just a matter of being more focused and really finding some passion in yourself in terms of what you want to do, and you'll be amazed at what opportunities will come to you. And so, by all means, yeah, if you end up doing something that isn't what you want to do, it's not the end of the world, and you are allowed. You're not. There's no forced labor here in this country, so you are allowed to actually take a path that may take you somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So for people early in career, they might be desperate, looking for work, and they're going to take something quickly, but you may be in a situation where you want to know more about the employer. So what are the kinds of research, what things should people be looking for when they're doing the research for a potential employer, and how can they go about getting that information? Maybe share how you might have done that.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, nowadays with websites, you can find a lot about an organization and what they find is important. What their mission statement is, and like, for example, KPMG, I learned a lot going to the interview about who the organization was and what their value systems were. So I think as much as you can, and if you do know people in different industries or working for different organizations, ask them what the culture is like. I think that's a big thing, is asking what kind of company you want to work for. Do you want sort of the 9 to 5, or do you want something where you're going to be working more, but the payoff might be a little bit higher? So I think to define what is important to you is something important at the early stages on too, as you're exploring different companies.
To add on to that comment, if you do end up receiving an interview with a company you may feel might be right for you, it is absolutely fine to ask the employer in an interview questions about the company, about their vision, about growth. They will expect it, and I think that most employers actually value hearing from that interviewee questions, because it means that you're interested in the company and not just a role or a paying job. So ask as many questions as you can in an interview.
Very good. Well, you made it through my questions. In a moment, we're going to turn things over to questions from the floor. But before we do that, we have a bit of a treat for everyone. Well, maybe not for Robert. I want to thank everyone that volunteered to participate in doing a live informational interview this evening. Tonight, we have Jasmine Chen, who's going to be our interviewer. And I'll ask Jasmine to come up, and there she is. Hi, Jasmine. So Jasmine will be asking Robert a handful of questions, which are examples of questions that you might consider asking during an informational interview, at a networking event, or simply when you get a chance to speak to someone who can provide you with vital input on your career planning. So I'm going to turn things over to you, Jasmine.
Good evening, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I have 3 quick questions today. And the first one is, what exactly is the first step I should take in terms of mapping my career path?
All right, I'm going to give you sort of a bunch of sort of steps along the way. I think one is to sort of look at where you've been. So those of you that are, if you're already employed and you're looking at another, is you need to do an assessment of the kind of work you've done. If you've volunteered, you've been involved in committees, some of the decisions you've made, take a look at where you are, because you need to know where you've been in order to try and figure out where you're going. Likes and dislikes are an important thing. What have you liked about where you've worked or not liked about, or the things you want to do that you're not happy with? What's your goal as it relates to this? Do you want to change the world or change your bank account? Do you want to be a world leader, or do you want to be an effective local player in your community? So there's definitely you got to get to the core of who you are in terms of looking for opportunities. Look at your hobbies, and maybe there's an opportunity to take your hobbies and turn it into employment or bring it into part of your life. It's amazing the number of painters that started as house painters that actually are selling art and have sold art over history. It just becomes the passion in their life. Make a job opportunity out of it. I mentioned earlier about looking beyond titles in terms of the fact that you may see a job for a marketing coordinator, but when you actually begin to look at what that job is, look at what you've done in your career and what you're skilled at, what you feel you're capable of, and try and apply it to that. Trends are really important. Take a look at what's happening both locally and nationally. We've just completed at the Economic Development Commission a labor market outlook to 2020, which basically breaks down the jobs that are going to be in demand in this region. There'll be about 75,000 job openings in this valley by the end of 2020. There's only going to be about 28,000 people in the labor force at that point. So there's going to be a lot of open work. So we've identified the job opportunities, where they are. Take a look at that and see how that matches with what your passion is. And finally, I'd say set some goals in terms of what you want to do with your life and your career and what that might look like, and try and work toward those.
Okay, great, thank you. And my second question is, what exactly are some of the resources that might be available to me as I engage in my job search here in the Okanagan?
So there's a few that come to mind, and thank you for the earlier plug. So the Economic Development Commission has a program called the Okanagan Young Professionals Collective, and that's a great opportunity for all of you in this room to connect to a body that not only provides social connection to other young people, but mentors, those that have recently been employed or have gone through a job search process that can help you out. Well, it's not a job placement organization. A lot of organizations, larger corporations within this region, will come through the OYP looking for workers and for those that are looking for careers as well. And it's that connection point, volunteer opportunities, Special Olympics, motion ball, time drive, a whole bunch of different events and activities, which are a great way to both network amongst folks that are of your same generation, but also that job market as well. So that's one. We have Accelerate Okanagan, which is the region's technology organization, has a job board on there that aren't just technology jobs. You'd be amazed that when you think tech, it's just all programmers and gamers and animators. It's not. There's marketing jobs, there's coordination HR jobs. There's quite a bit on there. And as an organization, they hold a number of different events. They do these tech cafe events at the Streaming Cafe, where they'll bring a CEO of a company in. They'll sit down and tell about their life, how they got into the business they're in, and their career path. Great to hear their stories, but also great to meet a a whole bunch of folks from the business community and from the technology community as well. So that's another really good resource. And the other part I think I touched on earlier, just about the fact that we have all these, there's a lot of people here that are willing, pick up a phone. If there's an industry that you have an interest in, pick up a phone and talk to a CEO. You'd be amazed that people will actually spend time to do that and help you sort of plan where you're going. There's a lot of networking events here as well, between business mixers, volunteer opportunities are another great way to sort of begin a job, get involved with on a board of directors or with an organization, get out meeting people. So there's both the formal and informal opportunities do exist out there.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, how exactly can I grow out my career?
I think it's about thinking, planning, and acting, basically. So it's again, identifying what you want in your life, what you really have a passion and desire for, plan how you can integrate that into your work life and a work career, and then act on it. And I think that I think all of us tend to spend too much time analyzing and not actually acting. And I think that there is a really good opportunity to put your plan in place and do something with it. Don't just let it sit there, but actually actively look at it. And for those of you that are already involved in your careers, your first question about career path, it's all the same. You should be looking at this every 6 months to a year. Don't wait 15 years to say, gee, what should I do now? It should be sort of a document that has some life to it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you, Robert. So now it's time to turn things over to you. We have a couple of people with microphones, so if you raise your hand if you have a question, the microphone will come to you. And if you could ask your question of a specific person on the panel, that would be great. And the microphones are important so that we can all hear what your question is. Who's going to have the first question?
There we go.
Over here.
Hi there. Hi, Rob. My name is Juan. I have a specific question regarding to volunteers. Luckily enough, I met my boss through volunteering. She was one of my volunteers, and then eventually she hired me to be her employee. So my question is, I know that there are lots of students spending their time volunteering. So when you look at their resumes, do you think it is very important that the roles they volunteered for have to be related to the job? Or it doesn't matter as long as you spend as much hour and effort in helping the community?
So I'll take an example. My assistant went on a maternity leave, and the position is fairly focused in terms of the skill set. It's a very difficult, you wouldn't be able to write a job description and expect someone to apply that would have all those skills. So the things that we looked at were, strong presentation skills, marketing ability, and an understanding of sort of how the small business operates. So that was sort of the starting point. But then we get down to what distinguishes candidate A from candidate B. And volunteering is so broad in its range. We want to see community commitment, people that have spent time and put some energy and effort into building the place that they live, because that's what we're trying to do as an organization. So, they could have, for example, been a volunteer at a small business event or worked with one of the organizations. That would have been great, but you know what? It doesn't matter. We're looking for people that have put time in, effort in, and have invested in their community. So it doesn't, from my perspective, it doesn't have to be specifically in that area of work.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it kind of communicates to your personality and what's important to you. And volunteer really should be because you enjoy doing it, not because you're trying to, for other reasons. So I think from an employer's perspective, it adds individuality to who you are, and it may be an asset too for the different things that you care about and you're passionate about. So.
I would like to hear from each of you on this. I read recently on The Economist that in North America, people change their career 8 times in their lifetime. I interpret that getting the first job is difficult, and staying within that job is also difficult, or growing up within jobs is difficult. So in that context, I would like to know that what's your tips on finding the right balance between discovering my professional blind spots as well as being in the comfort zone all the time? So what keeps me awake? What should keep me awake in order to keep my razors sharp all the time?
a good question.
Very good question.
It's a very good question if it has the panel stumped.
Yeah, well, it requires a bit of thought.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm just sort of ruminating over my own career changes, and that's probably accurate. I've probably changed careers like completely. I used to be a social worker doing child protection investigations and support, which is completely different than being a university administrator. And so, you know, this will continue for me, and it's an expectation that I have that I am not going to stay put, right? Like, I will continue to grow and change and seek more. And your question around tips for kind of knowing your blind spots or knowing that, I think you need to just, for myself, I've paid attention to the things that make me greatly uncomfortable, and the things I know that I have weaknesses in. I've heard a while back that you really shouldn't focus on your weaknesses and developing your weaknesses. You should really just focus on developing your strengths instead. So I know what my blind spots are, but I don't spend a heck of a lot of time trying to fix them. I focus on what I think I'm good at and then getting better at that, and watching the people around me that I admire and what they do and what I'm like, I totally can't do that, like chairing meetings or something like that, facilitating certain things. I really want to get better at that. So I seek goals based on those blind spots or those things that I perceive to be the areas that I want to build. So I'm not sure if that completely answers your question, but you just have to really be, I believe, comfortable with ambiguity and change, and that things, you are going to change your career, maybe just in North America, like you said, I don't know, maybe not around the world, but I think that I'm fairly comfortable with it, and that it's going to happen. And I think students today are too. From what I hear from students, that's their expectation, is that they're going to roll with the punches. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's a formula. I know everyone's probably different, but for me personally, if I'm feeling unsettled, if I'm starting to feel a little bit complacent, I think that's where I start to notice that I need a new challenge. I need to take on something else to develop. And I agree, like, not to focus on your weaknesses unless it's a skill that you definitely need in your current role. But you know, recognizing what your strengths are and just capitalizing on that and building on that, and it'll start to form where you're going then.
And I would push your employer for performance reviews, regular performance reviews, so that you're actually getting some valued feedback on, and in terms of helping identify those. And there's sort of two schools on that. One is that there's people that go, yeah, I need the performance review so I can get a raise or not a raise, so I put up with it, fill the form out. Hopefully that isn't where you're coming from, that you actually look at it from the perspective of what can I learn about my current role and how I apply myself to it.
So I'm going to kind of go on a broad spectrum on this. The millennial generation, so pretty much me down, research shows that they always want to be changing jobs, right? They always want to be new careers, given different tasks, different opportunities. So when you're looking for an employer, ask them the question, you know, employers know that people will move around in jobs, but it doesn't mean you can't move around in jobs internally. So in my current role, doesn't mean that I'm going to be an LR advisor for the rest of my career, but I have the entire organization available to me if I want. I just need to be discussing that with my manager and let them know what my goals are in 5, 10, 15 years, and if they can make that happen within the organization, they keep me, right? And they want to keep the employees within a company. So look for an employer that looks at being able to change your career within their own company instead of having to move careers and jobs, right, and companies. So keep that in mind.
That's a good point.
Do you have any specific suggestions, say if you're going to school in Kelowna, but you want to move somewhere completely new? So if you're moving to a new city where you don't necessarily know anyone or know even where to start, do you have any specific suggestions for how to kind of go about that search in a new place?
What I can comment on is I'm looking at it from if an employer's looking at your resume and they see that you're not living there, is that kind of your question? Is how do you make them or yourself stand out even though you're not in that city? Or how to look for a career in a different city?
Both.
Okay. So from what I've seen in my past experience, if you're looking for a career in a different city and you're not there, be honest with them when you apply. Put it on your cover letter, you know, you're seeking to move to Calgary, let's say, and that you're moving to Calgary and you're seeking a position and you're willing and able to get yourself there for the interview and or for a position. and don't hesitate to contact me at any time. That at least lets the employer know that you're willing to do what it takes to come to the interview. Because sometimes employers will look at it and say, oh, well, this person's not in the city, let's put them in pile B, right? We want to interview people that can interview tomorrow, type of thing, right? So just make sure you're honest and let them know that you are planning on moving, willing to do what you have to do.
And are you moving to Calgary, by the way? Wow, Nick the Mentalist, who knew?
It's usually Calgary, Vancouver, right?
I think that you, at the risk of sounding like Nike, you just have to do it. Basically, if you make a decision on a city, you've got to be there in order to make things happen. And it's reaching into your own network to make some connection point with somebody in that city that you can hopefully call on to at least give you a starting point. When I moved, my wife and I moved 25 years ago to British Columbia without jobs, didn't know anybody, literally had spent 3 days in this province and just did it. And it's terrifying for the first couple of weeks, and you kind of go, what have I done? But then you get out there and you start, it just takes just a few people to get you going, and then you begin to see the opportunities that are there. And certainly the advantage now versus when I did it is that the internet is alive and well, and you can try and make it a lot of connections online before you even get there. So go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any tips or suggestions for, like, I want to work in a government organization, I have getting MSW, social work, and yeah, just how do you crack into like the government jobs? I know, like with businesses, you could go to mixers and stuff like that, but with large organizations, yeah, if you have any tips, would be appreciated.
Since I have an MSW, I can tell you that it depends what you want to work in the government. So if you want to work for the Ministry of Children and Family Development, you need to have your delegation. Or your designation. So you need to do further training to be kind of delegated by the government to do that. So is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do have to do that, and I can't even remember, it's been so many years since I worked there, but I think it's through the Justice Institute or something similar, that you have to do that further training in order to work there. One of the steps, though, is to do your practicum there when you're doing your practicum, and that's the main way. In my class, there was sort of a portion of the BSW, when I was in my BSW, that went that way, and then the rest of us went not-for-profit, in the not-for-profit route. So the MSW is still an opportunity to do that, and when I was doing mine, I did my practicum in the ministry offices in the director's office. So it's just the only way to meet people, and you can request that of your practicum supervisor, that you want to go into government, or even in mental health, and there's a lot of crossover there as well to be able to get into that. You could start doing volunteer work as well in not-for-profits, because those hold a lot of the government contracts. So where I used to work as a family support consultant, I had a contract from the ministry to deliver that service. So it wasn't that I worked directly for the government, but my contract was through the government, and that is what most of the government workers end up doing. So yeah.
That's part of the value of that practicum experience is the networking that happens, not just what you're learning in the field, but the people you meet.
If you take it from a labor relations perspective, most of those types of roles are in a unionized environment. So my recommendation is sometimes you have to take a lateral or a step down to kind of take that step up later on. So if you see a temporary position, or maybe something that you're overqualified for but is in the same industry, apply for it, because once you're an employee, right, you always have the opportunity to apply for those roles internally before they go externally, and for the most part. And if you have the accreditations and the certification for that role, and you have the seniority, it's your position, right?
Absolutely. Apply for mat leaves. People do not apply for mat leaves or contracts. They're like, I need stability, I don't want to apply for that. But most of the opportunities come up. You hired for a mat leave, right? And some people are like, well, that person's going to come back and I'm going to lose my job, but maybe not, right? And if you prove yourself in your time there, you will be kept on. So I think there's a ton of people that we've employed through mat leaves that are still working for UBC. So
we have a department with 14 staff, and 3 of them are people that originally joined us as mat leave replacement staff. So it definitely can lead to something permanent, full-time.
And
have to work with me.
That's awesome. If you can get a contact within the organization too. I know there's very systematic ways that they go through the hiring, but ultimately people want to work with people that they get along with. And maybe this is a little old school, but one job, it was actually in the public sector that I got. I tracked down the hiring manager and went and hand-delivered my resume. And I didn't go through the first cycle of the hiring. I think I was pre-screened and didn't even make it, but she ended up calling me 4 months later. And I got the interview and I got the job. So I think if it's something that you really want, don't be afraid. And the worst answer will be is no, like we can't talk with you or whatever, so.
Very good. Other questions? I had one that I thought maybe someone might ask, and that's about resume building. And what makes a standout resume? How do you sell yourself on a piece of paper?
Spelling and sentence structure would be my quick answer. I'm sure you.
Yeah, you have to make sure it's perfect, and make sure it's individualized for the position that you are applying for. Make sure you put some of the requirements of the job description into your resume and cover letter. That's very important because it individualizes that cover letter and resume for the role that you're seeking.
Yeah, a strong covering letter. If it's going to a person you know, definitely pull out how your skill set relates to that position in 3 bullet points even, just to show that you've taken the time and you are really interested in it. I think that'll set you apart.
I have a few opinions about resumes. I've seen a lot of them. For sure, do a cover letter. We kind of don't even look at the resume if it doesn't have a cover letter. You need to really individualize and personalize it. Second, I think we're going to have multiple opinions about that, and I was kind of saying that I was leading a panel, a hiring panel, and I said, oh, I really like this candidate, I love this resume, and the other person on the panel was like, I hate that resume is awful, I scrapped it right away. So there's no clear answer. You can't really come up with a way sometimes that pleases people, but to make it clean, to make it less wordy rather than more wordy, there's some people, I've had 2-page cover letters, that's just way too much, and then bullet paragraphs with like 9 bullets talking about skills, I think that's too much. So you just have to understand, like when you get a really long email from somebody, when you get it and you're like, oh, I don't want to read this whole thing. It's kind of like that when you get a resume. You're like, okay, great. Like, look at this nice, tidy package. I've got 90 of these to go through, so I just sort of want to go through it easily and have it really clear. So just imagine the recipient of that resume and what they're looking for.
2 pages. Anything longer than 2 pages is probably not going to get looked at.
Totally. Most of them are 5. I get like a lot of 5-page resumes, and it's too much.
And if you find that you just don't have enough room, take your references off.
Yes.
You can always put references available upon request, and that's absolutely fine. An employer won't look at it differently because you don't have them on there. Another quick point that I wanted to mention is make sure it's written in past tense. I see a lot of resumes that go from past tense to future tense, and it makes it look messy. So just make sure you put everything as if it was in the past.
Very good, thank you.
I'm just wondering, is there any place on campus that you can go to like take a resume and like go over it, and because we're at the end kind of our MSW, and being in the MSW, we don't really know where a lot of the services are on campus, and not being there for our bachelors, we just kind of feel a little bit disconnected from the services that are on campus.
In the University Center on the 2nd floor, do you know where the tuition desk is? If you go down the end of that hall, it's called the Advising and Involvement Center, and you can talk with Robin. And so she can do it herself, or there's also workshops that are available for it. I think people kind of obviously feel that resumes are a bit personal, so they don't really want to put their resumes out to the world to look at, but some people don't mind. So yeah, Advising and Involvement Center, just ask for Robin, and she can meet with you. She can even do it together too. Like if you two wanted to go in and talk with her, it's just very flexible.
No more questions? Well, don't forget that we are having a reception, and you're welcome to approach any of the panelists if you do have a question. I know they'd be more than happy to answer those. Before I ask Casey to come back up, I have one last question for each of the panelists, and that is, what's the one takeaway that people here tonight, if they could take one thing away from this, that you think would be the most important or most valuable bit of information? And we'll start with Michelle at the start.
Really, I just think put a lot of effort into your career search. So as we talk about resumes, make sure it's perfect, make sure it's customized, make sure that you have researched the place that you are going to apply to or interview at. And also make sure that you think about what you have to offer, not just what you're going to get. And I feel like that's really important. And it's worth considering, obviously, what you're going to get, but what are you going to give? And when you bring that to your future employer, think that through a little bit about, I see that you do this, and I think that you might be able to do this better. Like, I've been eternally impressed by people that bring sort of bigger ideas to the table when maybe we didn't ask for it, and say, I looked at your social media, and maybe we could tweak this a little bit. So think about what you can offer, and just put a lot of thought into it before you take yourself forward.
For me, do your research on the company. So when you're applying for positions, make sure it's a company that you feel fits you. And if and when you are, receiving a job offer, and you may be fortunate to have 2 job offers, let's say, don't take the job that has a higher pay or that you receive more money over one that you feel may be more of a long-term role or that you may grow more in. It's not always about compensation. Compensation can come later, right? You can be in the role you want to be in and make decent money down the road, but start your career off with a job that you know that you can grow in, even if it pays less.
It's hard to just focus it. I think for something I would leave would be to get plugged in, to engage what you're passionate about, and not hold back on volunteering. Just make time and find time to do the things that you care about. You're always going to be working. That's always going to be there. But I think if there's something in you that you enjoy doing, is just always keep that going in the background and keep volunteering. And if you like helping people, make sure you're doing that.
And I would just point to the career mapping that we spend a lot of time doing things other than career mapping, and you're going to spend, that's where most of your life's going to be spent, your waking hours. I know that may be depressing for a lot of you, but put the energy and effort into working through who you are, what you want to do, what you want to get out of work, and review that. Don't just put it aside. Stay on top of it, and most importantly, find the passion. What makes you excited and gets you ticking and going, and if you're able and fortunate to make that connection, you'll have a very happy work life. And as you said, the compensation shouldn't be your primary focus. That can come at some point later. So stick to that career mapping.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Robert and Sarah and Nick and Michelle. Great, I think, sharing of your experiences and your perspectives. And I'd like everyone to join me in a round of applause for their. Thank you very much. And I will invite Casey up to the podium one more time. So thank you, everyone.
I was going to start off by getting everyone to clap too. Do you want to do a second round of clapping? So this evening's discussion will be made available as a podcast on our digital library. To download podcasts, photos from past events, and so much more, I encourage everyone to visit the newly redesigned Alumni UBC Okanagan website, where you'll find news and information that is uniquely Okanagan. You'll also see all of our upcoming events like MiniMed. We are excited to partner with the MiniMed program this year. MiniMed is a series of 4 lectures held weekly on the UBC Clinical Academic Campus at Kelowna General Hospital. This year's theme is Innovations and Technology in Healthcare. You can find more information and how to register on the Alumni UBC Okanagan website. On November 14th, our new UBC president, Professor Arvind Gupta, will be speaking at the Kelowna Chamber event. Please register for this luncheon on the Kelowna Chamber website and join your fellow alumni as we hear Professor Gupta share his vision for UBC. Our alumni have told us that they're looking for programming that focuses on professional development. Tonight's event is just one part of our Your Next Step career program, which also features online resources such as webcasts and webinars. Check out the website and take advantage of the great programming that will take your career to the next level. And don't forget that whether you're a current student or UBC graduate, you have a lifetime access to the Career Center at UBC Okanagan. You can come in for an in-person career assessment with an advisor or explore online career tools. Finally, if you've not registered for your free A card, I invite you to check out the registration table where you can hear all about the benefits of having an A card. And now I'm announcing the winners to our prize draw. Yeah. Did everyone hear that? She just wanted to thank us, the alumni, for access to the EBSCO host journals, online journal articles. So thank you for that. So we've got two winners here. Lori Jansen. So do they claim them after? Is that how it works? Oh, okay. We've got them right here. Is she here, Lori? Oh, do they come up or no? Yeah, oh, come on up. Come on down. And our second winner is Ashna Jassy. Here? Hi. Come on down. So they just won an alumni swag package. Everyone knows what swag stands for, stuff we all get, but you guys all didn't get it, sorry. So thanks again for being here tonight. Thanks to the panelists. And yes, we have a reception, and we were talking about networking tonight. Maybe this is your chance to practice some of that networking and getting to know new people and not being afraid to ask the questions you really want to ask. So have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Sure.